Well, what a day, eh? Red Wings fans, how are we feeling? How's the fan base? How is everybody responding to today? Because, look, we had made a video earlier this morning talking about Detroit and how there were a bunch of things to pay attention to in the Detroit sporting world. Right now, as I'm recording this audio, the Vancouver Canucks, it's not Detroit, but it's Vancouver. I'm in Vancouver, so obviously they're my main priority. The Canucks game is in its first period intermission. I'm looking at the Lions and the Seahawks game. Guess what? The Lions are up 21-7. Nice. And the Red Wings just wrapped up 2 games at the same time wherein they lost both. Now, I was watching 3 games at one point in time. Both Red Wings games were open on my computer, and then the Canucks game was on my TV. And you know what? This is kind of where I start to say maybe I'm being pushed a little bit too hard. Not because I'm, deteriorating, my mental or emotional or physical health is going down the drain. No, that's not the case here. I'm fine. Thank you for asking. But I did watch most of the Red Wings games against the Penguins and the Sabres. But let me tell you, watching 2 hockey games at the same time and then throwing on a third one on the TV, that's not a good idea. I had no idea what was happening on either of these games. I had the speakers on too, so I was listening to both commentary teams commentating on both of them. It was just kind of like, that squirrel in Ice Age, like left, right, up, down, center, like just kind of going back and forth, paying attention. Oh, scoring chance at one end. Okay, there's a face-off at the other end. Oh, a big save on one, and then there's a big hit. Like, I could not, for the life of me, form any sort of a cohesive narrative of the games that we had seen. I had watched Megalopolis, the new Francis Ford Coppola movie, last night, and even that had a better narrative than my experience watching 2 Detroit hockey games at the same time. And no, that's not a compliment to Francis Ford Coppola. The movie was an absolute train wreck of a mess, and I had some people walking out in my theater. It was really bad. I watched it in IMAX too, so I'd spend more money on my ticket, but as a movie lover, you gotta watch the good with the bad and the bad with the good. So either way, what we're gonna talk about today are both of the Red Wings games. We're gonna say nothing about the Lions because I know nothing about them other than they're winning right now. The first Red Wings game to have concluded in chronological order was the 5-1 defeat at the hands of the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins and the Red Wings were supposed to play a few days ago, but that got postponed because Pittsburgh had some travel issues. Instead, the Pens head over to Motown today. They play the Red Wings in Little Caesars Arena, and they win 5-1. It is a pretty embarrassing game from a Red Wings point of view when you consider the roster the Wings iced. Let's just read some of the names that were playing in Detroit versus Pittsburgh. Tarasenko, Kopp, Raymond, Rasmussen, Larkin, Kane, Kasper, DeBrincat, Mata, Sherratt, Albert Johansson, Moritz Seider, Eric Gustafsson. Meanwhile, the Penguins were playing Rutger McGroarty, Drew O'Connor, Vasily Ponomariev, Huntington, Puljujarvi, Lars Eller, Bemstrom, Ashari. This was the B team for Pittsburgh, going up against pretty much the A team of Detroit, and the Pens won 5-1. Pittsburgh was 1 for 3 on the power play, Detroit was 1 for 6. This game, even though I wasn't able to fully comprehend what was going on while watching it because I was double tasking with the other game, this was not a good Detroit Red Wings game. There was a shorthanded goal tossed in there for the Pittsburgh Penguins for crying out loud. Shout out to Lars Eller for getting on the board. But at the end of the day, the Red Wings, I don't know if this is really one of these games that you want to make any conclusions off of because it was just a bad game. The only 1 goal scored by Detroit was off of Lucas Raymond on the power play. Surprise, surprise, Raymond scoring goals again. This one assisted by Dylan Larkin and Patrick Kane. So if that's a pairing of players that continues to assist on goals heading into the regular season, I don't think anybody's going to complain. Raymond from Larkin and Kane is a pretty common goal I think people would be expecting heading into next season. But in a game like this, where the Wings end up absolutely crapping the bed against the B Detroit Penguins team, you kind of have to hope that everything works out properly heading into the year. I mean, the Penguins just had another game the other day where you had Crosby and Malkin and Letang combining for all these goals, and I think Malkin had a hat trick or something. It was crazy. They're still capable of performing, and then the B team shows up and absolutely whoops the Red Wings A team 5-1. I think the only Red Wing that stood out in a very positive way, obviously Lucas Raymond for getting the goal, but Marco Kasper looked super dominant in this one today too. He's like the only guy really putting in extended effort. You know, I'm starting to think maybe that philosophy that we had talked about really is true after all. Maybe the Red Wings A team doesn't really care about a game like this. They're already making the team. They're already going out there with a spot guaranteed in the lineup. You know who doesn't have a guaranteed spot in the lineup this upcoming season? Marco Kasper. So he's got no choice but to play his behind off every single game. Nate Danielson also played today. Guess what? He was a -3. No disrespect, of course, to Danielson, but Marco Kasper just had a much stronger game. I'd say that Albert Johansson also looked really good too. He was moving, he was getting involved, he was making the right decisions. I don't really think this was too much of a game to write home about for anybody else. But at the end of the day, it's a preseason game. We'll just hope that a lot of these Wings can say, okay, we'll get the rust off, we'll get the summertime relaxation out of our bones, just get stomped by the Penguins, and then we'll continue on. Because if this energy is going to be brought into the regular season, then no, sorry, Yzerplan, what's going on here? Anyways, let's go over onto the other game the Wings played today against the Buffalo Sabres in Buffalo. It was a 4-3 overtime win for the Sabres. Now, I'm just going to say it right here. The Sabres probably deserved to win that game. They outshot Detroit by a double, 44-21, and they were absolutely going. This Sabres team wasn't the A team either. You had mostly prospects and younger dudes suiting up for Buffalo, and then for Detroit, of course, most of their A team was in Detroit playing off against the Penguins, so this Red Wing squad in Buffalo was also mostly a B team kind of roster, but you saw quite a few goals here. Michael Brandsegg-Nygard scoring his first of the preseason. Nice to see him finally getting one, and it was really early into the game too. Nice to see MSB getting continued success here in the Red Wings organization. And then you had yourselves a few goals scored here by Elmer Soderblom, finally. Good to see Soderblom getting back on the board. We had talked about him in a video a few days ago, going over the newest Vancouver Canucks signee and Vilmer Alriksson, and how he's a big guy that kind of exhibits a similar frame to Soderblom. We were just talking about in that video how Soderblom doesn't really look like somebody who has a projected spot in the lineup this upcoming year for the Red Wings, but because he was a wing before and he got sent down, he kind of stagnated a little bit in Grand Rapids, so hopefully he's able to eventually come around and become a full-time wing once again. William Lagesson also scored in the third period to give the Wings a 3-2 lead late, but unfortunately that was thwarted by Graham Slaggert, who had scored a short-handed goal to tie things up, and that ends up being the game-tying goal. The game goes to overtime, and then it's Konsta Helenius from Buffalo who gets the 4-3 win. Not a great game from the Red Wings' point of view. The Sabres were kind of buzzing for most of this game, and the Wings, as a result, come out with 2 losses on the same night. You know what? I'm going to say here that I was the martyr. I took the L. I watched 2 Red Wings games at the same time, and I didn't really understand either of them because I was kind of getting confused. You know who are the real winners of today's games? Other than the Penguins and the Sabres, the real winners are the folks in Motown who decided to watch the Lions today, and who didn't even give a second of their time to watching 2 Red Wings preseason games that were going on simultaneously. Of course, I mean no disrespect, but at the end of the day, the Wings A team kind of stunk pretty badly against the Penguins B team, and then the Red Wings prospects ended up just not coming out on top against a Buffalo Sabres prospects team. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if you even watched these games. What are your thoughts about the Wings versus the Penguins? And then what are your thoughts about the Wings versus the Sabres? I gotta go get back to watching the Canucks and the Oilers. This first period intermission interview with Louis DeBrusk talking about his son Jake DeBrusk is coming to an end here in about 4 minutes or so. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna continue watching this game. Hopefully it revives my hockey interest for the night. But thoughts in the comment section below about the Wings. I hope you enjoyed this British Trash Rules 99. And bye.